I was noticing the other day that somebody was really bugging me. And every time I thought of this person, I would just go, and I got some other people recruited into being bugged by this person. And we all agreed how annoying this person was and how much they bugged us. I started my meditation and my inner guide said, "What's with this? What is with you being bugged by this person and getting other people into being bugged by this person? What did they do? What's wrong with them?" And in my mind, I'm really justifying myself, saying they're just annoying. Look at how they are. Look at how they always say this or do that. It got really clear to me that for some reason, I felt like it was my right to thwart their self-expression, thwart their way of being. Just because I didn't agree with it, it didn't comport with my perspective on things. My guide said, why can't you just let them be who they are? Why do they have to change? Why do you get to be the authority as to who they are, what they think, how they express themselves? Are they hurting anybody? Are they interfering with your free will? Are they breaking a law? Are they stealing something? And I just had to eat crow right there with my inner guide. And I said, no, you're right. You're very right. It was just a wonderful experience because we all do it. I'm not unique in this. Now, I'm sure that everybody's guide would tell them that, but a lot of us don't sit and listen. But if you did, you would hear something similar because your guide wants you to be happy. My guide wanted me to be happy. My guide wasn't trying to shame me just so I'd feel bad. My guide recognized that the fact that it was bothering me so much was impinging upon my happiness, upon my joy, and upon my power. And so my guide wasn't going for that and said, let's clean this up if you truly do want to be happy. And it made me realize how much of that there is in my life, and I'm sure in the life of everybody. This idea that we don't like it when people are themselves, especially if they don't agree with us. The first thing that people will do when they hear me say something like that, they'll say, well, what about? What about the people that are impinging upon my freedoms? What about the people that attack? What about the people that harm? What about all of that? For now, we're not talking about those people. Just put those aside for now. Let's look at everybody else that you have a big judgment about, that you have a huge judgment about, that they just bug you for no reason, and that you allow that to go on. You allow that to go on in your mind unchecked. And what kind of effect that's having upon your happiness and your ability to have success in your life. It is a huge indication that your ego is in charge, because that's the ego's game. Separate, self-destruct. And that is a self-destructive tendency when we don't allow other people to be themselves. There are people that will never agree with us on very simple things, like how to load a dishwasher, and won't agree with us on seemingly more important things like politics or human rights and things like that. They get to be that way. They get to be that way. They get to be the way they are. You don't have to like it, but you don't have any right to change it. When I was conversing with my guide, I said, I don't understand. Can I have an opinion about this? And the guide was very clear. Of course you can, but that opinion is making you unhappy. That opinion is the problem. Why do you need an opinion about them if it has nothing to do with you? Why do you need to have an opinion about how they are and how they express themselves and who they are and what they do? How is that helpful? Yes, you have a right to your opinion, but why do you need it? You also have a right to not have an opinion, should you desire. And I was like, God, Sometimes, when you have a talk with your guide, it's like, shut up. I was doing fine with my judgments. I had to realize this was very true, that I was carrying around so much judgment, not only for this person, but for so many people, that I had no room for happiness. I had no room for joy. I had no room left for magic. And is that really how I want to be? Is that really how I want to go through my day? Because in truth, you can't just be a little bit annoyed with somebody. You are either at peace with them or you're not. You allow them to be themselves or you don't. You live and let live or you don't. There's no gray area. You don't shade that. Your ego will try to. It'll try to build up all kinds of illusions about how there's degrees, judgment. Well, these judgments are bad. These judgments are good. But when you're judging another person based solely on the fact that you don't like how they are, how they act, how they talk, what they believe, all of that stuff, when you have a judgment on that, it doesn't affect them, but it does affect you. It affects you gravely. And it's so much more serious than we believe it is. And this is why in that book of Q, Lucifer teaches to love your enemy. And when we say to love your enemy, people immediately go haywire. And they say, no, it's dangerous to love your enemy, because if you love your enemy, you're giving them power. You're not defending yourself. You're putting yourself in a place that's vulnerable. And the true magical principle here is that when you love your enemy, you disarm them. You disarm them because you armed them in the first place. When you let go of your defenses and you love them and allow them to be who they are, doing what they're doing in your mind, and you just bless them for no reason than the fact that they are a child of the infinite, you disarm them. You free yourself from them. And having said that, when you love them, you are frequently guided as to what to do in the world to protect yourself from their behavior, if they are truly a danger. Let's say you're working in a hospital that deals with severe psychosis. When somebody is violently reacting to something or someone in that facility, and they are obviously a harm to themselves or another, restraining them is an act of compassion and love. You're not doing it out of attack. You're not hating them and judging them. You're recognizing their illness and that they are a danger to themselves or another in this moment. And so restraining them is an act of compassion. You love them by restraining them. And the same could be said for a lot of problems in the world, that once you start to love this perceived enemy, what to do about them becomes self-evident. Your behavior is not being informed by a hatred or a vengeance. It's being informed by compassion. The idea of loving your enemy sounds really hard to most people, and it's the last thing they want to hear about, especially when they listen to a witchcraft lecture. But it's good magic. It's very powerful to come from that point of view. And this person that was bugging me so much was my enemy, because there is no degree. You're either my enemy or I love you. And if I love you, then you're no longer my enemy. And if you're no longer my enemy, then I have compassion for you. And what to do about your bad behavior, if it is indeed a danger, becomes evident to me when I have love and compassion for you. But if I'm fueled by hatred, we know where that comes from. That comes from the ego. And the ego's job is to attack. And the reason why the ego's job is to attack is because it's self-destructive. When you attack another, you are doing it out of a desire to destroy yourself. But when you are loving that so-called enemy, then you're transforming that relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that you go have lunch. necessarily. That doesn't mean that you condone their behavior necessarily if it truly is bad. It doesn't mean any of that. It means that you're putting yourself into alignment with the truth of who they are as your spiritual brother or sister, because we are all beams of light from the same star, and recognizing that they've lost their way. And that's not up to you to fix them. It's not up to you to fix that. But if you recognize it for what it is, when you do so-called protect yourself from them in the world, it's done out of compassion for yourself and them, not out of attack, where you're actually escalating the problem and making it worse. There's been so many times when I have just assumed what somebody is all about just because I know a little bit about maybe their upbringing or a little bit about their background, a little bit about their politics, a little bit about this or that. And then I just have a whole story about them. And I know who they are, and I know what they're all about, and I don't want anything to do with them. In fact, I hate them. When we listen to our inner guidance, we recognize you don't know them. The only way to know them is to love them. People have it backwards. They think once I understand them, I can love them better. Once I work it out, then maybe I can love them. Once I figure them out, maybe I can love them. But Spirit teaches us the opposite. It says you can never understand them until you love them. You have to start with love. It's very advanced, isn't it? To love somebody that you don't like, to love somebody that you don't agree with, to love somebody that might even seem like a threat to you and your very existence. No, that's the opposite of what we're taught. In fact, it's considered rather sophisticated to hate people. There's all kinds of jargon that gives you a huge structure of permission to separate yourself from them, to not love them, to not align with who they are as a soul, to always stay focused on where your differences are and where you're separated. And we, the Magi, the meek that are supposed to inherit the earth, we have to be at the forefront of this more now than ever. We have a lot of work to do in our own personal relationships to get the vibration of the entire planet to a point where we can have peace, where we can, quote, inherit the earth. But it has to start with just these small little annoyances, because there is no such thing. There is no such thing as a small annoyance. If we believe there is such a thing as a small annoyance, then we are hooked by our ego, because that's how the ego does it. Oh, it's okay. It's just a little hatred. It's okay. You can feel this way. You're justified in it. In fact, look at all of these other people who agree with you. See, that's the tribalism of the ego, because the ego doesn't love those people. It's collecting as allies to help you separate from this person or that person or these people. The ego doesn't love those allies. The ego's just using them temporarily to make sure that you're self-destructing, to make sure that you're not happy, to make sure that you are constantly divided. Because remember, if you're divided against any part of the holy child of the infinite, you are divided from yourself. No matter what you think they've done, no matter how evil you think they are. No matter. It doesn't matter. That's not your function. This is what was so clear to me with this conversation with my inner guide. It's not your function to judge them. That's taken care of for you. That's not what you're here for. You're not the one that gets to do that. Your only function is to love them. And my response, of course, was, whoa, that is so hard. That is so hard. And my guide's response was, it does seem hard, but only because you believe in your old reality. You believe that they are bad. You believe they are annoying. You don't believe that they deserve your love. So it's hard for you because you're having to do it anyway. But once you do it anyway, you'll recognize that you were wrong. And you'll be happy to know that you were wrong because you've healed this rift, not only in this relationship with this person, but you've healed this rift with your relationship to yourself and to your creator. It's a bitch. It's not easy. It's very advanced work to love those people whom we feel are bad, or whom we believe are annoying, or whom we feel are evil. You don't have to do it. That was the other thing I got. You don't have to. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And my guide said, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You know that. They always throw my own words into my face when I'm having one of these conversations. You don't have to do anything you don't want. Do as you will. But if you want to be happy, this is the way to do it. If you don't want to be happy, then keep doing what you're doing. It's really that simple. Angels are funny that way. Angels are very funny. And if you're very quiet when you're having these kinds of intimate moments, if you're very quiet, you can hear the laughter. And it's not mocking laughter. It's genuine laughter, because we are kind of silly. If it wasn't so tragic, it would be hilarious. But it is tragic. And that tragedy is something that each and every one of us has an ability to overcome. But we just don't want to. We just don't want to. It's so much easier to double down on our hatred, to double down on our annoyance, to double down on our judgments about people. Again, even if you put all of the really dangerous people to the side for a minute and you just look at everyone else, you still have a full-time job loving people. There's still plenty of opportunity for you to change your mind about people. And this whole fear of, if I just love people unconditionally, they'll get away with murder, etc., that is just never, ever been proven to be true. In fact, the opposite happens. One of three things seems to happen. Either when you love them, you no longer have a charge on them and they just keep going about being themselves, and then you allow them to be themselves so they're not bothering you and you're at peace and you're happy. Or your love for them changes their behavior, not because you've tried to change it, but because when you blessed them and you loved them, they received that and it changed them, it improved them. And then one other thing that can happen is if they are truly a danger and you love them, the best and highest way to deal with it on a practical level in order to remove the danger is revealed. And that's why so frequently when you end up forgiving an abuser, a former abuser, you notice they are held accountable, whereas before they always seem to get away with it. That's not the reason to do it, but it is a wonderful affirmation that love really works. It's not just a platitude. It really works. Love is very practical. I gave myself the assignment based on this interaction with my guide that I would, before I go to bed, make a list of the people that bugged the heck out of me that day. If it went on and on, I just limited it to the top 10. Top 10 people bugging me. If there's fewer than 10, that's great. But no more than 10. And then I just go through them all. I sit with the name, if I have the picture of them, or if I'm thinking of them, if I can visualize them, whatever. I'm really clear about who it is that I'm working this process on. I relax my body and I just say, I love you unconditionally. I love you just the way you are. And then I go on to the next one. I love you unconditionally. I love you exactly the way you are. And I go through that whole list. And I feel free. I feel free. I feel wonderful because I've been fired from the job of judging them. I've fired myself. I've let myself go. I've terminated my position at Judgy USA. I'm no longer the judge of these people. And a huge weight is lifted off my shoulders. And the funny thing, since I started doing that, the funny thing about that is that these people don't become more powerful in a bad way. They don't become more of a threat to me as a result of that. In fact, the opposite happens. There is no threat. Now, a lot of those people weren't a threat to begin with. A lot of those people were just like this poor individual that I just had all this judgment about. This person didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. They just bugged me. I had a whole case about how bugged I was by this person. They didn't deserve that. If you only did it for those people, that would still relieve you. But do it for everybody. Just try to do it unconditionally with no reservations. Just be as arbitrary as possible. Before you go to sleep, the names that come to mind that you hate the most, that you consider to be your enemy. And a lot of those people you may not consider to be your enemy, but if they're bugging you that much, that's exactly how you're setting them up. You're setting them up to be your enemy. And when you set something up to be your enemy, the mind responds by projection, attack, and defense. It solidifies that idea that they're your enemy. It solidifies it, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger because the mind expands. So it's up to us, each and every one of us, to take control of our minds and to recognize that the ego's trick of judging other people is not there to help us. It's there to destroy us. Ultimately, the ego's desire for you is that you are annihilated. That's what self-destruction means. It wants you gone. It wants you history. Now, the infinite knows that's not possible. But since we have freedom and we can do as we will, we can get caught up in that for lifetimes. And loving your enemies is a way to save yourself thousands and thousands of years. This birth, death, reincarnation cycle that the ancients always talked about, that you learn lessons in each life and your soul progresses slowly over time, that can go on for an eternity. But if you learn these little tools, that's called initiation in the old parlance. Initiation is a series of techniques and practices that allows you to speed that up and to cut through it, bore a hole through the mountain, and not go through lifetime after lifetime to get to where you want. And where you want to be is being an adept. You want to be at peace. You want to be happy. You want to inherit the best part of the earth. You want to be in a place where you are free and happy and healthy, prosperous, wise. And everything that stands in the way of that is your evil. And the ego trades in evil in that regard. So the only way through it is to find some techniques that bore a hole through that mountain so that you don't have to take thousands and thousands of years worth of reincarnation to get where you want to be. You can get there now. And one of those tools is loving your enemy. That is a very ancient initiatory tool. It did not start with Jesus. It was one of the fundamentals of the particular character's ministry. And that's because it's an ancient Luciferian principle, that what you put out is what you get back, that what we perceive is what we receive. And what you project is what you experience. So if you're projecting love where there was hatred, what you're going to experience is peace. You're going to experience transformation. Think about the wand of a magus. When that magus points the wand at a situation and it's able to transform it, that's what loving your enemy is. That's what that is. It changes you. It changes the situation. It changes the entire earth. If you could truly do that for even one person, take one relationship and completely transform it from grievance to love, if you were really able to do that, the rift in the human consciousness would be healed to such a degree we all would heal. All of us would. That old story where Lucifer decided to give us free will before we were ready for it, which cause the fragmentation of our minds, which cause the uprising of the world that we know, and the demiurge and all of that. And he redeemed himself immediately. And so his role is to teach us how to find that redemption for ourselves. That can happen very quickly when we use our minds in a very high way. And this is one way to do that, to love your enemy. And when you love your enemy, what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a position of absolute safety. You're putting yourself in a posture of absolute safety and invulnerability. You are so protected, you are so powerful that nothing can touch you. You're like a beam of light that nothing can touch. And this is happening because you have taken charge of your mind. You have taken charge of your power, and you've decided that you're going to use your power in a different way, in a way that is different than the ego is always teaching you. You're using your power in the way that works for you to overcome the world, overcome the entire illusion of this world, and open up into the reality of who you really are, how powerful you truly are. And by the way, how powerful they truly are. They may not see it. It's not up to you to teach anybody any of this. But if you love them, regardless of what you are being screamed at by your ego, if you love them anyway, it changes everything. It changes you, it changes them, it changes your circumstance, it changes the entire world. That's how much power we have. We can change all of it. In fact, I would love to give you a challenge to take 30 days where you forgive your enemies every single night for 30 days. And then let's check in and see if there's been any change in the world at large. Definitely there's going to be a change in you. Definitely there's going to be a change in your relationships. But I would be surprised if the world itself didn't change. Just having these people listening to this particular lecture right now were to do that. It would surprise me if we didn't see a positive change in the entire world after just 30 days. It's a powerful thing, and it's the one that everybody always wants to shut their mind off. They want to close their ears. They want to say, oh, there he goes again. Sounds too Christian. Freaking Christians. In a way, they ruined it for the rest of us. In a way, they did. Because anything that even sounds like Christian, we say, no, we don't want to do that. Because they made it so gross. Right? So we get to love them now. Take the challenge. Do it. Try this out. 30 days. You're going to love a maximum of 10 people a day who really bug you, and see where you are at the end of the 30 days. And then as an added bonus, let's see where the world is at the end of 30 days. And we may be very surprised with ourselves and our power. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.